My name is Hunter Aiden. Since not many of y'all know me, I'll give you a little bit of an overview. I go to Whitesburg Christian Academy. I'm in 11th grade. I've been attending Covenant for less than a year now, and I've been enjoying every moment of it. I love the way God uses names in the Bible to foreshadow the actions that would take place in that person's life. In the Bible, Joseph's life perfectly demonstrated this, as Joseph was a Hebrew. As Joseph in Hebrew is pronounced Yosef, meaning increase. This is exactly what happened in Joseph's life, as he was constantly increasing. Joseph was the youngest of 11 children. His brothers hated him, and he was the most loved out of his brothers. His brothers sold him into slavery for money, and off to Egypt he went. He was in the lowest point of his life, but God raised him up to the second in command of the Pharaoh. In all of this, God was constantly there in Joseph's life. That is a short run-through of how God was in his life, but today I'd like to talk to you about how he was in my own life. Life before Christ was unusual because I knew of him, but I had no connection with him. Before I accepted Christ in my life, a big struggle of mine was that I had the desire to physically fight with others. I wanted others to know that I was superior, and they were not. I had the mentality of a chihuahua, thinking I could take on any pit bull. I needed some humility in my life, but I was also in need of that deep connection within my life. Life started to have this endless void, and I didn't know what I was missing. Before I was saved, I prayed within my life, but it was about some selfish desire that I wanted. I prayed, but there was no connection with God. The void was never met. At the age of 5, I was diagnosed with anaplastic large cell lymphoma, the rarest and most aggressive type of lymphoma. The cancer grew overnight to the size of a golf ball, then went on to grow to the size of a softball. My parents were worried, as any good parent would be. I went on to go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital in Memphis, where I'd go and receive my treatment. I was forced to take 16 pills, each at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And when I had never even taken a single pill in my life. Every few days I would receive chemotherapy, and this is where I got to meet what the nurses called the Red Devil. This was a medicine that was designed to kill cancer cells, but like every medicine, there's a long list of side effects. The most notable side effect of this drug was that it would tear down the walls of my already weak heart, as I was born with a major heart valve problem that prevents me from doing strenuous activity. More recently in my life, I was diagnosed with severe depression. In my darkest hours, my only desire in life was for life to end. I wanted it all to be over. Life was hard was an understatement for me. Life seemed unbearable. To this day, I don't know how I made it through June 29th of this year, other than God. My family, but mostly my mother, was devastated to see me start to fade away. First physically at the age of 5, and then mentally this past year. Today, I can confidently say I am thankful for all the bad that had gone in my life. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." I'm able to say that I'm thankful for the trials and tribulations. I'm able to say this because I can see him in my life as I accepted God into my life. I'm now able to see that while I had cancer, that he was able to do miraculous things within my life. I can see that my heart was made stronger after all the chemo that I had received over a year and a half. And I was able to see that God never allowed me to throw up on the chemo protocol, even though that this protocol was canceled due to the deaths involved from the chemo alone. God let me never get sick to my stomach, even though I was on such a toxic protocol. And then I was able to see that God gave me the faith to believe in the power of prayer, no matter the situation. God brought me out from the depths of hell as I was suffering from suicidal thoughts and desires. This is the God we serve. A God that can bring you out of any depth, no matter how deep and dark it seems. God can bring you out. Joseph was in the depths of darkness until he's brought out of prison and then to second in command to the Pharaoh of Egypt. Joseph was poor but prideful man, with a coat of many colors. Then he was raised up by God into a humble but rich and powerful man. I was cured by cancer, and I was released from the chains of mental death, most commonly called depression. The chains of depression were released by the love of God and Covenant Presbyterian as God's tool. God's light was bright for me to suffer in such a dark world. Once I set my eyes on him, death fled from me, for this is the God we serve. Now think about your own life. How has God been with you in your dark seasons? How has God brought you out through to the joyful seasons? Our God is good and is with us all. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone.
Hey!
I'm Jake Elrod, and I go to Whitesburg Christian Academy. I'm a junior there. And today I'm here to talk with you all about stones. Now, you might be wondering why I call it stones. Well, if you look at our verse, Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8, verse 5 states, there's a time to scatter stones and there's a time to gather them up. Now, I could stand here and talk about what that means exactly, but the middle school already did that with their skit. So I'll just give you a few examples of my life. So let's go back to a simpler time. Back in second grade, this is when I first accepted Christ as my Savior. And at this time, I didn't really know what that meant at all. I was just kind of doing it because I went to a Christian school, and that's what everybody did when we were young like that. So we were there in the chapel. We have chapel every week. And the preacher said at the end of the sermon, if any of y'all want to accept Christ, just wait here at the end, and we'll pray for you. And so that's what I did. I stayed, and the preacher came up to me, and he's like, okay, let's pray. And that's what I did. I accepted Christ on that day. And like I said, did not know what I was getting into one bit. But Christ knew, Jake, I want to change your life. And that's exactly what he's starting to do. And you know what? I got a funny story, honestly. Real funny story. Recently, I told my dad I was doing a sermon today. And he's like, Jake, you better not be talking about me. I'm like, well, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And, okay, so what happened, my dad's a gas guy. So, over summer, on some Saturdays, I'll help him out with his job. And so one Saturday, we drive up to a place and we're driving back to Huntsville. And we stop at a Sonic. And what he does, he gets out of his truck, he sees a homeless man. There's the homeless man sitting at the Sonic on the table. And he pays for a meal for this homeless man. And that really stuck out to me. I never told him that this stuck out to me. I don't even know if he remembers himself doing it, but I remember it. And before then, I was very self-centered. Didn't really think much of the world. That wouldn't come to my mind before I saw that. I wouldn't have thought about doing that. But now, every day, I strive to be more like that. Because my dad's the most generous guy I know. And Mom, I'm not going to leave you out of this either. And my mom's been there with me throughout my whole life to help me out, schoolwork, anything else I got going on. And honestly, I haven't given enough gratitude for what she's done for me. And I'm sorry about that. But I get frustrated so easily with school, and my mom tries to help me out as best as she can. Sometimes I will not accept that. I've had trouble with that. And so as I got on, I've gotten a lot better with it. But my mom right now is trying to help me gather the stone of calmness and patience while I'm trying to scatter the stone of just frustration. And I really thank you for that, Mom. And now I challenge y'all to scatter and gather stones of your own. because very recently I've actually had to gather and scatter some more stones with a conflict at my school. Because at my school, I was involved in 2 sports just very recently, and I've been involved in track from freshman year until now. And my friends convinced me to play soccer this year, so that's what I did. And I was playing both of them, and I knew with my busy schedule and busy life, in the back of my head, I was going to have to choose one or the other pretty soon. And honestly, freshman year until now, track, I've been just doing it to keep my physical cardio up. But soccer I started to really enjoy. I may not be that great yet because it's my first year and it's so long. But I'm enjoying it a lot. And then we had a game this past Thursday, and then that made my decision very easy. And that's what I did. I quit track that very day. And so I challenge y'all in y'all's busy life to find those stones that you need to gather, find those stones that you need to scatter. Thank you.
Hang in there, y'all. It's almost lunchtime. Got just a few more things. Okay. Hey, I'm Renee Washburn. I'm a junior at Randolph. So I want to let you in on a little inside joke that our youth have. So this started over the summer. We were at La Valley Farm, which is like a really beautiful and fun place to go. And we were just hanging out in the cabin. And Stephen decided that it was a good idea to use the Pavlov's dog theory on me. So what that was is they did an experiment where they rang a bell and they would feed these dogs. So the bell was associated with the food, right? So their mouths would water when they would hear the bell go off because they knew it was dinner time. So when I was laughing, because I tend to do a lot of that, if you don't know me, I'm Renee, how are you? I laugh a lot. So this is not a rare occurrence. So I was laughing really, really hard, so Stephen decided to connect the word watermelon, which was the first word that popped into his head, which is really random. I don't even like watermelon, but it's fine. So he decided to say it when I was laughing really hard. So then obviously I kept laughing, and then it was just a thing, and it became like an inside joke. So I thought this inside joke was going to be like a small little group of just the people who are at La Valley Farm. I was completely incorrect. That is not even accurate at all. So I was helping coach the middle school Randolph girls, and I heard behind me this chanting of watermelon. I'm like, okay, either I'm going crazy or it's everywhere, like everyone in Huntsville knows about it. I had no idea what was happening. So obviously I start laughing, I lose it. I think it's hilarious because I turn around and Sarah and Payne, 2 of our middle school girls, are staring at me right here, right? And they're going, watermelon, watermelon, watermelon. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And I start laughing. My friend next to me is like, are you okay? Like, what is happening? Like, what are they doing to you? And I was like, oh, it's just, I had to explain it to her. And so, little did I know that it had become a widespread joke between all of our youth, not just those high schoolers who were there on that trip. Which was a great thing, because, but all of that laughter and that happiness would never have happened if something unfortunate had not happened before it. So, the mission trip that we were supposed to go on that summer was canceled because not enough people could go. So La Valley Farm filled that, little void that we had for that trip. So without that happening, we would have never had that trip to be able to make that inside joke in the first place. So, so you think it's a bad season, or it's a bummer, or it's, a bad thing that happens, but there's usually a lot more positive that come out of something that's negative that happens to us, because of the things we learn and the things that end up happening because the dominoes just kind of fall. So, speaking of soccer, you know me, I played my entire life. But not every season has been awesome. So I had about 6 years where I was on a team where, the team that coached, just was not fun. People didn't get along that well, and we didn't win that much. It was never fun to lose. And so it wasn't a great time. And then at the end of middle school, that 7th and 8th grade year, I played on varsity. Which, oh boy, those upperclassmen do not like it when you take their playing time from them when you're younger. It's not a good time. But we ended up winning state in the end, and I had a goal in the state final. So it's good, completely switched, because then you were respected and it was fine. But that was really rough for me. But then now I have an amazing team and a coach that I love. But I'm able to appreciate that a lot more than I would have because of what I didn't have those soccer seasons previous to that. So, now I can look back on it, and it was an awful time during when I was going through it, but I can look back on it in a positive way because I know what happened, what the outcome was me learning a lot of life lessons and appreciation because of what I didn't have then. So, it's a lot like Joseph's life. So Joseph, we've been talking about it in these past several Wednesdays, and actually this past Wednesday, we were talking about his highs and lows, but in order for him to have those highs, he had to have the lows in his life. So, and he had some pretty low lows, like nothing I've gone through, like jail and the pit. It was bad. Hunter touched on it a little bit too. And so, but in order for him to have that, he had to have those lows because that's how he learned those life lessons that he needed to learn and to be in the place where he could have gone to those highs. So everything happens for a reason. And God used his lows to be able to teach him what he needed to know in order to have those highs and to be successful within those times of his life. So, a lot of this time, the mission trip getting canceled, that was if you don't know the title of my thing is Rain Brings Flowers. So, the mission trip was our rain. No one enjoyed it. It made us sad that we couldn't have it. But it brought about that inside joke flower that bloomed from that rain. And then I learned a lot of life lessons from the rain of those 6, 8 years of that soccer season that was just awful. And I didn't enjoy. But now I'm able to see what bloomed from that now that I look back on it. So, and Joseph is the same way, with me, you're able to see the difference. Because how do you know it's a good season if you don't have any bad seasons to compare it to in your life? You wouldn't. If everything was good and everything was bad. So, God uses all of those lows to teach us things. So he used Loblolly Farm, he used the cancellation of the mission trip so we could have that. So then that inside joke could be created, which was a basis for the foundation of my relationships that I was able to build with the middle school girls. And I'm about to start a middle school Bible study with them. So none of that would have happened if that weekend had not occurred because of something unfortunate that happened before it. And with those soccer seasons, I'm able to appreciate the teams I'm on now. I'm able to appreciate the people who are younger than me because I know what it's like to be mistreated just based solely on your age. So I can be more inclusive from that. So all of this, it was all good things that in the moment I thought was negative, but it wasn't. So, it's just like how God uses rain. You might not like it, but he uses rain to help things grow and to help flowers bloom, help plants. And so I want to challenge you and encourage you. That was some of the things that was seasons of my life that I learned a lot from. And so I challenge you to think about what seasons God has put you through or will or is, and what flowers are going to bloom from those time periods of your life. Because I guarantee you something positive is going to come out of it eventually, even if you don't notice it for a really, really long time. So, and obviously I have a lot of life lessons that I just told you, and haven't been alive very long. So, yeah.